Today, I'm going to share a heart-touching Iranian love story with you. The film is called God is Close. Even though it's a story about love, there's a deep and meaningful reason behind its name. This story carries two powerful life lessons. First, that God tests his dearest believers. And second, that God is the best of planners. This movie might help ease some of your despair and remind you that you're never truly alone. So I sincerely invite you to watch it till the end. Without further delay, let's step into the world of this remarkable story. The film opens with a young boy named Reza, who appears to be seriously ill, his condition clearly alarming. But as the story unfolds, we gradually come to know how he ended up like this. Reza is being transported in the back of a pickup truck, likely headed toward advanced treatment. His eyes are half open, staring blankly at the sky. The truck eventually stops near the holy shrine of Imam Reza, the very person he was named after. Reza is gently laid down on the floor, gazing upwards, and from here, the story takes us back in time to reveal how it all began. Every morning, Reza used to come listen to the soulful recitation of the Quran by a man named Saeed, who loved Reza like his own son. Afterward, Reza would leave with his motorcycle and walk it through the market. He once stopped in front of a fruit shop and asked to buy an empty apple basket. The shopkeeper kindly told him to just take it for free, but Reza insisted and paid him 500 tomans, which made the man genuinely happy. Just then, Reza noticed a little girl sitting nearby with half-rotten fruits, struggling to find any customers. He approached her with a gentle smile, and the girl smiled back faintly. Reza bought all her fruits and brought them home. When he got there, he greeted his mother and poured the fruits into water. His mother asked, "What did you do? Most of these are already spoiled." Reza simply replied, "Mom, make jelly from them. I'll eat that." In truth, Reza had no one else in this world besides his mother. His father had passed away when he was a child. He then strapped the apple crate to his back and began riding his bike again. Reza worked as a motorcycle taxi driver, picking up passengers from the local market. Soon, a man approached him, asking to go to a village called Kalaudi. Reza agreed, and they set off together. He rode fast, way too fast, making the man extremely nervous. The man kept asking him to slow down, but Reza paid no attention and continued speeding ahead. Eventually, after covering a long distance, they reached Kalaudi village. In the village, a few kids were seen playing outside. The man scolded Reza firmly, saying, "Who rides a bike that fast?" Reza quickly apologized. The man then turned to the children and asked, "Why are you playing outside during school hours?" One of the kids replied, "Our new teacher hasn't arrived yet." The principal had mentioned that the teacher would be joining today. Reza overheard this too. Soon after, he headed back toward the city. On the way, he picked up another passenger and returned to town. As soon as he arrived, he found another passenger, a kind, elderly woman. Just as he was about to start his bike, Reza's eyes caught sight of someone stepping off a bus. It was a young woman, graceful and stunning. Her name was Miam. For a moment, time seemed to freeze for Reza. Miam paid the bus conductor and asked, "How do I get to the village of Kalaudi from here?" The conductor pointed to the nearby bike stand and said she could take a motorcycle. Hearing this, Reza quickly turned to the elderly woman and said, "Granny, please take another bike. I'll give you a free ride tomorrow." The woman scolded him and got off his bike. Miam then asked Reza, "Are you going to Kalaudi village?" Reza replied, "Absolutely, teacher." Miam looked surprised and asked, "How did you know I'm the new teacher there?" With a smile, Reza said, "You're joining the only school in that village today." Reza started the ride, taking Miam toward the village. Along the way, Reza kept talking cheerfully, but Miam remained silent. While crossing a small stream by the hillside, one of Miam's shoes slipped off. Reza immediately pulled over and ran after it, eventually catching it with relief. He tucked the shoe into his shirt pocket and returned. Miam, clearly annoyed, snapped at him. "Who rides a bike like that?" Reza apologized sincerely. They continued the journey and finally arrived at the school. When Miam offered him the fare, Reza refused, saying, "You're a guest in this village. I can't take money from you." A little annoyed, Miam placed the money in Reza's pocket and walked away. Reza carefully placed the money into his shirt pocket, then stood there, gazing at her as she walked away. He didn't return to the city. Instead, he waited right there. Eventually, the school bell rang, and students began pouring out. Among the teachers exiting the building was Miam. The principal politely reminded her to arrive on time from tomorrow, mentioning how late she had been today. As Miam stepped out, she noticed Reza waiting. Reza greeted her. Miam returned the greeting, but tried to avoid him, saying, "I'm not heading back to the city just yet. I'll be late." At that moment, another bike driver approached and offered her a ride, but Miam told him, "I already have one arranged." Miam quietly got on Reza's bike, and they started riding back toward the city. Reza looked truly happy, like a child who'd found something precious. As they rode, he said softly, "The principal asked me to bring you to school and take you home every day." But Miam didn't respond. A few moments later, they reached her home. Miam stepped off the bike and walked away without saying a word. Reza just stood there, watching her silently, his eyes fixed on her, as if the world had disappeared around him. That night, Reza couldn't stop thinking about her. Even while eating, his mind was lost, completely taken over by Miam's presence. His mother noticed something different in her son. The next morning, Reza went to the salon and had his hair cut neatly. Then, right on time, he waited in front of Miam's house. She came out just as expected. Along the way, Miam came across a spot where rainwater had pooled. Wanting to help, Reza placed his wooden crate across the puddle for Miam to step on. But as he set it down, a splash of muddy water splattered onto Miam's face. Reza immediately apologized. "I'm so sorry." He meant every word, because Reza wasn't just kind. He was pure-hearted, almost childlike. He dropped Miam off at school, exactly on time. As Miam entered the class and began teaching the children, Reza stood quietly outside, hiding, watching her. This was Reza's first experience of love. And for him, it was something sacred. Even after returning home, his eyes remained blank, lost in a dream. Miam's voice echoed in his ears. His mother looked at him, concerned, and asked, "My son, what's going on with you?" Reza replied, "Mom, I don't even know myself." His mother quietly placed his food on the table and left. Reza didn't even move. He just sat there, the same way, silent still. The next day followed the same rhythm. Reza picked Miam up right on time, dropped her at school, and once again he stood outside, watching her from a distance. And just like that, time passed. Miam continued her lessons, unaware of the eyes that followed her every move. Then the recess bell rang. One little boy stepped out to drink water. Reza gently approached him and whispered, "Do you think class could end early today? I have to take your teacher into town. I have to get home a bit early today." Then, he gave the child all the money in his pocket to buy some chocolate. The boy smiled and went back into class. By now, Miam's lesson was almost over. The boy raised his hand and politely asked if they could leave early. Miam, confused, scolded him. At the door, Reza waited, half hidden, gesturing to the boy to try again. The boy walked out, telling the teacher he had to use the washroom. But instead, he went straight to the principal and said, "Sir, our lessons are done. Miam said we can leave if you agree." The principal looked puzzled and replied, "No, absolutely not. There's no early leave today." The boy then went back to class and said to Miam, "Sir said we can go." Confused but respectful, Miam dismissed the class. The principal, surprised to see the students leaving, stopped Miam and asked, "Why did you let them go?" Miam replied, "Sir, you gave permission." That's when he turned and scolded the little boy. And that cheeky child, he just turned and gave Reza a playful wink. Reza, unable to hide his grin, turned his bike around and pulled up in front of Miam. Without a word, she got on, just like every other day. Back at home, Reza's mother was deeply worried about her son. She had always known. Her Reza was a gentle, pure-hearted soul. She visited the women's prayer area at the mosque and prayed for her son's heart to stay safe. Meanwhile, Miam and Reza were returning from school. The forest path was foggy, and the cold mist had veiled everything in silence. Suddenly, Reza's bike hit a ditch and stalled. No matter how hard he tried, the engine just wouldn't start. Miam looked around. Everything was silent, the fog making it hard to see even a few steps ahead. Deep down, she was scared, but she didn't let it show. She sat quietly on the trunk of a tree while Reza kept trying to fix the bike. Then, he slowly walked toward her to ask for something, but Miam flinched in fear. It turns out, Reza needed her hair clipped to clean the spark plug, but the way he approached had startled her. She snapped, "What are you doing? You don't just sneak up on people like that." Reza, a little hurt, quietly took the clip and got to work. He didn't say a word, and as Miam sat watching him, regret slowly crept into her chest. Maybe she had been too harsh. Then, in that quiet moment, Miam softly began to recite a poem, an old, beloved piece by a famous Iranian poet. Her voice was gentle, trembling slightly, like a melody carried by the fog. The words flowed like water, soothing both of them. When she finished, she stood beside Reza and gently said, "I'm sorry for how I spoke earlier." But Reza, being the gentle soul he was, still held onto a bit of pain. Right then, they both heard the distant sound of a motorcycle approaching through the fog. It was the same rider we had seen earlier, once again offering Miam a ride. She looked a bit uneasy. Reza reassured her, "I hope once I clean this plug and put it back, the bike will finally start." He carefully reattached the spark plug, and to his joy, the bike roared back to life. Overwhelmed with relief, Reza cheered and kissed the bike. And once again, they rode together, silently like always. Only Reza knew this was love, even if it was only from one side. One day, Reza stopped into a flower shop and picked out a beautiful bouquet. With hope in his heart, he went straight to Miam's house. He waited patiently outside her door, holding the bouquet. Minutes turned to hours, but she didn't come out. Finally, gathering his courage, he pressed the doorbell. No one answered. As he reached to knock again, he realized the door was already slightly open. Nervously, he stepped inside. The house seemed empty. Suddenly, a man came out from one of the rooms and angrily asked, "Who are you?" Reza stood there silently, clutching the bouquet. The man suddenly grabbed him by the collar and began to hit him. Just then, Miam and her mother came out from inside. Miam quickly stopped the man and said, "I know him." The man let go of Reza. Miam's mother gently explained, "His name is Reza. He's a good boy. He picks Miam up and drops her off at school every day." Reza looked at Miam and said, "Teacher, you're getting late for school, so I came to call you. I rang the bell, but the door was open. I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have come in like that." Miam didn't say a word. She quietly walked away, visibly upset. The man then asked Reza to leave the house. Reza's heart shattered. He sat down near the door and started crying. It was at that moment he realized the man he had just met was Miam's fiancé. They were already engaged, and soon they would be married. The pain of losing someone you love, even before you get the chance to tell them how you feel. Only those who've experienced it truly understand. Have you ever had a story like this in your life? A love you couldn't confess before it was too late? If you have, let me know in the comments. Reza's life had turned completely upside down. Every morning, he still rode his bike up to that same closed door and stopped there. Deep down, he knew no one was going to come out, but still, he waited. He visited the village school and sat silently in front of Miam's classroom, imagining her presence as if she were still there. Meanwhile, Reza's mother went to see a man named Saeed. She opened up about her son's condition and said, "Reza just sits at home all day, quiet and lost, staring up at the sky." Mr. Saeed listened patiently and offered her words of comfort. Meanwhile, Reza spent another sleepless night. But the next morning, something was different. He rode his bike once again to Miam's house, and this time, the door opened. Miam stepped outside. Reza's heart lit up with joy. He quickly strapped his wooden box to his back, ready to start his day again. Miam looked at him and gave him a gentle smile. Reza turned his bike around and pulled up in front of her. Just like before, Miam got on the bike. But today, she was holding a box of sweets in her hand. They arrived in front of the school. Miam stepped down from the bike and stood still, gazing at the building with deep emotion. For some unknown reason, her eyes welled up with tears. She glanced at Reza for a brief moment, and then quietly walked straight into the principal's office. Reza remained outside, listening silently to every word spoken inside. Miam was there to invite everyone to her wedding, which was scheduled for the upcoming Friday. The principal congratulated her warmly. She then shared something personal. She would no longer be able to work at the school, as her soon-to-be husband didn't want her to have a job. Miam had truly dreamed of working there. The principal offered her some comforting words. Soon, the school day ended, and other teachers gathered around to congratulate her. The scene shifts. It was Miam's wedding day. Reza rode into town with the school principal. When they arrived, the principal got off the bike and walked inside, while Reza stayed back, quietly standing outside. The house was beautifully decorated. One by one, the wedding cars began arriving. Miam's fiancé stepped out and opened the car door. Dressed as a bride, Miam stepped out slowly. She looked absolutely stunning. Reza watched her from a distance. He had once dreamed so much, but never found the courage to say anything. He had never told Miam how deeply he liked her. Miam walked past him in her bridal attire, and Reza simply stood there, frozen in place. The days that followed were filled with sleepless nights. Even though Miam no longer lived in that house, Reza still sat outside it every day. He knew that closed door would never open again, but he kept waiting. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Reza's hair and beard had grown long, and slowly, he began to lose his sense of awareness. One day, while wandering aimlessly, Reza found himself standing in front of the mosque. The same mosque where he once came every day to listen to Saeed Sahib recite the Quran. Seeing Reza, Saeed asked, "It's been a long time since I saw you." With a heavy heart, Reza replied, "I'm in so much pain." Saeed nodded and said, "Pain is a part of life. You loved that girl deeply, didn't you?" Reza slowly nodded. "Yes, very much. I just can't forget her." Saeed gently said, "Love is a blessing from God. But remember this, no one will ever love you more than your Creator. He is the best of planners. So surely, He has made a better plan for you." But Reza was now a man with a broken spirit. It wasn't easy to comfort him. He sat there, quietly listening to the recitation. Later, at home, Reza stared at a picture of his late father hanging on the wall. He softly told his mother, "Mom, I really feel like going to see Dad today. I miss him so much." His mother gently replied, "Then let's go visit the cemetery." But Reza looked back at her and said, "Not the cemetery. I want to go be with him, forever." The scene shifts. Reza's mother was slowly becoming worn out from constantly worrying about her son. During work breaks, while everyone else ate, she would only sit and cry. More days passed. Reza had now lost his mind completely. He wandered the streets aimlessly, while children laughed and made fun of him. He always clutched two things tightly in his hands: Miam's hair clip and the very first note she had ever given him. After some time, Reza fell ill and was confined to bed. He couldn't recognize anyone anymore. He couldn't even speak. And from here, the story returns to the present, the very place where it had first begun. Then we hear Reza's voice in the background. He says, "That day, I was lost in a dream. A man, dressed in white, with a beautiful, gentle face, handed me a piece of bread and said, 'Reza, eat this.' Then he added, 'Your mother is very tired now. It's time for her to say goodbye. She's going to be with your father.' Then, I saw a woman dressed in white slowly disappear into the white light behind the door. And that's when I woke up. I could sit up by myself. In front of me, there was a piece of bread. I was extremely hungry. I began to eat, and then my eyes fell upon my mother. She was peacefully asleep. Her face looked like she was smiling in peace. The Quran was still open on her lap. That day, My mother had passed away. I lay on her grave and cried for a long time. And it was then I realized that for the sake of a brief love, I had hurt the one person who loved me the most in this world. After that, Reza returned to his normal life. He was telling all of this to Saeed Sahib. Saeed was working at the mosque counter. Reza was sitting right beside him. Women were walking into the mosque for prayer. Suddenly, Reza noticed a very familiar pair of shoes. Yes, it was Miam. Reza stood up and greeted her. Miam was visibly startled, but she softly returned the greeting. She said, "You've changed a lot. I almost didn't recognize you." Reza replied, "You've changed too." Then Reza asked, "How is her husband?" Miam paused for a moment and quietly said, "I don't know. We're divorced now." Saying this, she slowly walked into the mosque. After the prayer ended, Miam sat quietly in the library, reading the Quran. Reza walked over slowly and sat beside her. Once she finished her recitation, Miam began to speak on her own. She opened up everything to Reza, saying, "My husband was a cruel man. My mother was the only one I had in this world. She was very sick, but I never got the chance to care for her. She lived alone, and my husband was always obsessed with money. Still, I accepted everything. But after a year passed, and I couldn't become a mother, his abuse only got worse. He began hitting me every day. One day I told him, 'If you want, you can divorce me.' And he did. Just a few days later, I heard he married his cousin. I've become so tired of life. I'm exhausted. Last week, I visited our old school. I requested the principal to give me a job. He said he'll try." Reza listened quietly. Not a single word came out of his mouth. Miam got up and started to leave. But just before stepping out, she turned and asked, "Do you still ride your bike along that village road?" Reza replied, "I gave that up a long time ago. I never want to go back to that village again." From nearby, Saeed Sahib gently added, "Ever since your wedding, Reza hasn't touched that bike again." Miam lowered her gaze, saddened, and quietly walked away. The next day, we see Reza cleaning his old bike. Seeing this, Saeed Sahib smiled. Reza then sat beside him and, with a hint of sorrow, said, "The person I once loved so deeply, the one I went crazy for, today, I don't feel the same way about her anymore. I can't seem to find the old Reza within me." Saeed Sahib gently replied, "That's why God sometimes tests his servants, so they can come to truly know themselves. If you had ended up with Miam back then, perhaps you would never have discovered your true self. You might never have realized how much more valuable your mother's love was compared to that temporary love." Just then, Reza's cousin and her little daughter arrived. Reza lovingly hugged the child and gave her Miam's old hair clip, the one filled with memories. The little girl was overjoyed to receive it. After that, Reza mounted his bike again. At that moment, an elderly woman approached, asking for help. Reza had only one thing left from Miam, the note she had once given him, which he had kept as a keepsake. He handed that note to the elderly woman. Now, he had nothing left that reminded him of Miam. Reza was walking with his bike when he crossed paths with Miam. They stood there, in silence, eyes locked, hearts speaking louder than words. Reza whispered, "I told you yesterday, I'll never go back to that village again." And Miam, with a voice as warm as the sunrise, softly replied, "I haven't come to take you back to the village. I'll go wherever you take me." Then we see the old fruit box lying on the ground. That same box that once stood between them, now no longer needed. And in that quiet moment, we realize their journey, their lives, their hearts had finally become one. And just like that, this beautiful story comes to an end. But life isn't about perfect endings. Sometimes, what's imperfect is what makes our story beautiful. We all go through hard times, times that test our patience, break us down. But maybe, just maybe, those difficult days are how we find the love we truly deserve. So don't lose hope. Something beautiful is waiting for you. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it will find you. So friend, if this story touched your heart, leave a comment, let me know. And if you'd like to hear more stories like this, you're welcome to subscribe. Take care, my friend. Please keep me in your prayers.